Hi everyone and welcome to Club 3 episode 63 of Rolling in the Isles, an FM20 British Isles Journeyman series with me, the United City FM. Welcome along. So this is another international edition. We are in the summer of 2030. My Derby County side are having their summer break and there's nothing to talk to you about with that just yet. But we are also, in this series at the moment, the England manager, and we are at the World Cup. We got through our group stage against Colombia and Costa Rica, quite comfortably really. 3-0 against Colombia. Costa Rica we beat 4-0, so no problems there. And we've been drawn against Ukraine in the first knockout stage, and that's the game that we're going to play today. If we go through, then we will play either Switzerland or Holland. Their game hasn't happened yet either, and we'll play that game also if we go through the Ukraine game today. So that's the plan. There's nothing to tell you about particularly other than the fact that we've still got Shenton that's out, our right-sided midfielder. He's out for another 5 to 12 days. A couple of players on yellow cards. We'll have to be a little bit aware of that as the competition moves on. But other than that, pretty much as we can see here, everybody's mostly fit and healthy. We've got a couple of issues. Hayes, having played recently, a little bit under par in terms of his conditioning. And we've got Elliot, who's having to play all the games down the right-hand side, of course, because Shenton's not around, is suffering a little bit because of that. But that's just the way tournament football works, so we're going to have to go with it anyway. So the team for today, the first game against Ukraine. I say first game, I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. We could go out at this point. This is knockout football for you. But the team for today's game against Ukraine is Dewhurst in goal. We've got Godfrey and Gray in central defence. We've got Alexander-Arnold on the right, Chilwell on the left, Rice, Pavazinho and Foden in central midfield, with Elliot on the right, Saka on the left and Luca up top, and pretty much everybody else that's fit and healthy on the bench. We've rotated a little bit here and there just because some of these players need a little bit of a rest. So that's why the team is as it is. So let's get into the first game of today, hopefully the first game of today, and see what happens. So we've gone with favourites here, go and put on a performance. Ukraine are coming with a 4-4-2, but 4 central midfield players and 1 deep-lying midfield player. So they're quite narrow in their central midfield. There you can see down here, what have they done? No, that's just put the names in. 4-4-2 with that holding midfielder. So see if we can get some joy from the wide areas. That was a decent header off a corner kick, and it just unfortunately doesn't quite challenge the goalkeeper enough. And they've decided to kick it out wide, and that's exactly where they don't have any players. So we pick it up for Alexander-Arnold in the right back spot, and he's moved it on, and now Elliot cuts inside and loses the ball in midfield. That's where we don't need to be going. We need to go round the outsides of it and see if we can get that width from the fullbacks specifically. And there's the ball into Elliot again, and Alexander-Arnold makes the run off the right wing and cuts it back for Elliot. Can we get a cross in? He drops it backwards for Rice, but it goes out for Alexander-Arnold, and here's the chance for the cross. Surely it's got to come in. There it is, and Luca gets a decent connection with the header at the near post and heads it into that top corner, and it was a nice build up down the right hand side. Eventually Elliot gets the ball in, some good interplay there, and it was a great header by Luca, and he's doing pretty well for us. And so is Owusu. Owusu got a couple of goals in the last game, and this is, I think, Luca's second of the tournament as well. So our two main striking options are really doing the business for us, which is fantastic. When you can rotate them and still get good results from them, that's brilliant. So all in all, that's a great start. Let's see what happens for the remainder of this first half. Let's see if we can control the game and pass the ball well when we get it. But at the moment, it's Ukraine coming down the centre of midfield, as you would expect them to be. They do get some fullback width though, so we've got to be wary of that, but we're holding our shape nicely and pushing them backwards, which is good. They're just probing and waiting for a bit of a space to open up, and they've gone wide again, and we've pushed them all the way back. Some very good pressing of the ball there from a side that we're not specifically urgently pressing, but we are putting a little bit of a press on. We won the ball back in midfield. There's Saka on the run from the left side of midfield, and then he drags his shot wide, doesn't he? Harmlessly wide, and the goalkeeper just watches it harmless. No issue for him at all. But at least we're putting some pressure on. Again, it's down the left-hand side for Saka, but the challenge comes in and we take it out for a throw-in. The referee wants a word here. Is he going to book him for that? He's going to send him off for that. I'm not 100% sure why. It seemed to be a reasonably good sliding challenge that knocked the ball out, but Ukraine have gone down a man. Wow. Okay, that's going to be interesting as the game progresses. And again, off a set piece, that far side. And the ball, what's happened here? And Luca got a header on, but the referee has seen something. What has he seen? Is it going to go in our favour or not? I'm not really sure what's going on here, to be honest. I was too busy thinking about the fact that we were celebrating another goal, potentially. And he's given... There was a foul in the build-up. That's a shame. It was a decent effort from Luca again in and around that 6-yard box. But we're piling on the pressure because they've had their guy sent off. And we go in at 1-0 up at half-time. And that's pretty good going. I'm happy with that in terms of decent knockout football. So what we're going to do here, I think we're going to just gently, calmly say, I'm happy with the performance, keep it up. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to make a change. And we're going to bring Reece James on for Harvey Elliott down that right-hand side. And then we're going to switch Reece James and Alexander-Arnold. Oxlade-Chamberlain? No, Alexander-Arnold. And he can play that slightly high up midfield right-hand side role that we play in our asymmetric formation. And just take the pressure off Elliott a little bit. We've got to protect him for the next game or so if we go through here because we don't have Shenton. Another decent free kick to the far post. On this occasion, the header comes in, but it doesn't really trouble the goalkeeper, and it goes over the top. Chilwell with a throw-in, and we lose the ball briefly, but get it back again through a little bit of sloppy play from Ukraine, and we work the ball eventually down the right-hand side to James, who stops it from going out, but then loses the ball rather than just trying to cross it first time. He stopped it. But they've got nobody up front. They're not really pressing us, are they, in that sense, in the same way that we are them. And there's plenty of space in this kind of area of the pitch for us to dominate the possession, find some open spots. And in this case, it's Saka, and he gets into the box. And VAR is potentially going to give us a penalty here. And if that's the case, then we can really chill out about moving on, I would suggest, if we can go 2-0 up from a penalty spot. And there's no reason to think that it won't be a penalty, really. Saka got into the box with the ball. He had to ride a challenge, but the challenge was quite vicious. And he's given a penalty. And they took him down in the penalty box, and there's the result of it. So here we go with a good opportunity to go 2 up, and it's Foden, and he makes no error whatsoever. A great penalty taker, Foden. I think he's already taken one in the tournament, if I remember rightly, in one of the other games, and he's proving his worth in that attacking midfield role, which is fantastic. He's right at the height of his game now, 29, 30 years old, and really a linchpin for what we do, moving from the midfield into attack. So a great player to have. And there's a Chilwell throw-in, puts Luca right down on the byline, but eventually the cross comes in. Of course, Luca's not there at the moment because he came to go and get the throw-in, but now he's in the box and he finds it at his head. He gets one chance with the header, it drops back down to him, and he blasts it home for 3-0. And I think we're sailing into the next round, which is fantastic to see. Rice onto Alexander-Arnold, onto Reece James, good deep cross, a good header, but it was blocked, and then it just falls nicely to him, left-footed, absolutely wellies it home, and we go 3-0 up. So we're going to pause it there and go and see whether we can make a couple more changes at this point, just to protect some of our key players. So let's make a decision here. We've got a couple of yellow cards, if I remember rightly, one for Gray and one for Pavazzino. We're going to take Pavazzino out, and we're going to put we're not going to put Hayes in there. We're going to put Appiah in that slightly deeper role. I'm going to leave Gray on because we've got Gomez as well who can play central defence, so that's not too bad. And so we're looking for one other, and I think we're gonna absolutely protect Luca, and we're going to put Greenwood on this time and see if he can get on the score sheet and make it so all of our strikers get a decent opportunity to show their worth to this side. But Luca is such a key striker for us that we need him late in the competition if we can. So it's worth protecting him here and there. And at 3-0 up, what more can you ask for, really? We got like 15 minutes to go at this point. I think the game's going to die a little bit. Ukraine don't really have the manpower to come back at us. So we'll probably just play keep ball for most of the rest of the match. And that's proving its worth here. 92 minutes, 93. And there's the final whistle, and we go through in the first knockout stage of the World Cup. onwards to play either Switzerland or Holland, which could be a tricky game. So we're going to say well done, a good win for us. Just to put this all in context for you, I think in 2022, the World Cup of 2022, England won it. So we've had recent success. Obviously, that particular group of players, some of them have moved on because of age, and a couple of them have moved up into the sort of slightly more mature category. So the shift has happened in that squad over the last 8 years from it. But even so, we've got a very good setup, and we should feel comfortable about moving on into the knockout stages. And we've got Holland in the next round, and that's going to be a tricky game, isn't it? So give me a second to get through to it, and then we'll see what happens in that second knockout round. So here we go for the second game of this particular episode, another knockout stage in the World Cup against Holland. When you play football manager, it's a tricky game at times just to get the balance right of who you leave out and who you put into these squads in tournament football, because there are some issues here with some people getting a little bit tired and their conditioning just dipping slightly, and we want to maintain as much positivity as we can in terms of fitness moving through the competition as long as we can go. And I chose this 23-man squad because I genuinely feel that any one of them at any point can play any of the games. I think we've got a decent squad, other than one little area maybe, and some slight lacking and backup in the centre of defence. But anyway, other than that, I think it's a very good solid squad. And so we've had to rotate today just to protect some of these players from getting too tired too early in the competition. So I stand by my decisions and my choices. It's a little bit of a shifted side. But for this second game, we're going to go with Dewhurst in goal. We've got Godfrey and Gomez in central defence, Alexander-Arnold at right back, Thorpe at left back, Webb, Pavazinho and Appiah in central midfield, with Elliott on the right and Sancho on the left, and Owusu up top, and pretty much everybody other than the poor Shenton, who's still injured, on the bench. So let's get into this second game and see what happens. So we've assertively suggested to them we want them to pick up where they left off in the last game. It was a good, comfortable win against Ukraine in the first of the knockout phases. Holland are probably going to provide a much sterner test today in this second game. But nonetheless, I think we've got a good group of solid international players who can potentially still get the job done here if we play to our the best of our abilities. And so far, it's been a quiet first 10 minutes, but the first highlight goes to us. And Appiah and Webb play keep ball in central midfield. Thorpe goes back to Gomez, and it goes on to Sancho. We're keeping the ball very nicely at this point. If we don't make any errors, we'll get a chance here, I think. Alexander-Arnold cuts it back. Appiah cuts it back again to Webb, who maintains the discipline of sitting in front of that back four, the role that Rice normally plays. And we keep the ball still very comfortably, playing in that triangle in midfield, running it around them. Great to see, but we need to find the route through at some point. We can't just sit here forever. We've got to be a little bit more dynamic. And there's a through ball. Sancho onto Owusu, and he loses his marker, who gets completely befuddled by what was going on, and he nips round the back of him and finds it at his feet and powers the ball home for a 1-0 lead after 10 minutes and a minute or so of some really good controlled possession. It was a good through ball in the end. Sancho with a head on over to the far side. Owusu skips round his marker, who really got confused by it all, and finds the ball in a good spot to be able to power it home for a 1-0 lead. Corner kick from Elliott on this near side goes to the centre of the 6-yard box. We lose the initial header but get it back from Sancho. Gets back out to Elliott. Can we get another second bite of the cherry? We do. And Owusu again. Luca is so important for this side. I wouldn't belittle that for a second. But we've got some fantastic backup at striking position with Mason Greenwood and Owusu. And today it's all about Owusu in the centre of that 6-yard box. Cross comes in from Elliott, and again he nips in front of his marker this time, catches him by surprise again, and puts it into the far post as he was looking at it. And after 16 minutes, it's the Owusu show, and it's going amazingly well so far for a slightly rotated 11. A few gambles that we had to make, and I stand by them. And Pavazinho gets a foot in there briefly, but loses the second bite at it. But we win it in the centre of defence again. Godfrey and Gomez are good, experienced central defenders, and a great effort by Sancho from the very edge of the area, about 23 yards out. And he powers it just slightly over the top of the bar. A wayward goal kick, though, and puts them right back on their heels again. Alexander-Arnold picks it up. Eventually, Elliott takes over down this right-hand side, pauses momentarily and drops it back to Webb. There's the space again for Webb to sit in, and we've moved it nicely through the gaps. And we get another bite of the cherry, but not quite on that occasion. It goes down the sides of the goalkeeper. And we might just about manage to get in at 2-0 up at half-time if we can suppress the last 5 minutes of this half and play our controlled possession and just frustrate the Holland side. And, just in the last dying seconds of that first half, what have we got? Potential lower leg injury to Jadon Sancho. Well, we bring 23 players for a reason. It's really unfortunate. But again, we'll call on the likes of Saka, who can come in primarily for this second half and just see if he can steady the ship down the left-hand side there. We got through to half-time. That is so unfortunate. Such a fantastic first half has just been dampened slightly by that knock. And we'll have to see after the game what that actually means for Sancho and the rest of this tournament. But so far, pretty good going from this England side. So passionately we'll say I'm very happy with it. Keep it going. I'm not going to change a thing at this point. I'm just going to let them go back out there and continue to try and frustrate the Dutch by keeping possession of the ball and making them chase shadows. You can see they drop their central midfield into the defensive midfield line, and it opens up all of this space for primarily Webb to sit slightly deeper and use that space to our advantage. And we didn't need the space in midfield on that occasion. We worked a fantastic free kick over to the far side, and the rising leaping header came from Gomez, our central defender, up at the back post for the free kick. Appiah with a fantastic delivery, and we go 3-0 up after 62 minutes. No offside decisions there for us, which is brilliant. The goalkeeper almost got to it but couldn't claw it out from the back of his net, and we take a 3-0 lead. And I can't tell you all about these international sides. I haven't done an awful lot of research into who's doing amazingly well or not, but Holland don't seem to be quite the force that you would expect them to be necessarily. But I would also say that we are pretty decent. We are now tiring somewhat though. So Pavazinho comes out and put Hayes in, and we are going to just secure our central defence in terms of Godfrey comes out and Gray goes back in, and just see if we can steady the ship a little bit through that spine of the team. We've already had to make one sub, of course, with Sancho getting injured in the first half, but it looks like a really comfortable win for this England side of mine against a good Holland side, but we were just an awful lot better. I'm very happy with that performance. We're going to go out and we're going to find out who the next opponent is for tomorrow's episode of this journey through the World Cup and see how far we can get. So let's go and see where we can find our next, whether we can find out who our next one will be. England winning the World Cup third round. Disappointing, humble defeat. Sancho, that's the one that we need to find out, isn't it? What's pulled calf muscle? Yeah, let's go and see whether we can get any more details on that. Pulled calf muscle between 9 days and 4 weeks. It looks like his tournament might be over, mightn't it? Saka can play down that left-hand side, and we can always put one of the strikers into that attacking sort of inside-forward kind of role as well. So, yeah, there's options there a little bit, but it is disappointing nonetheless. Owusu with a magnificent 2 goals, and that's, I think, 4 for the tournament now for him. So that's fantastic. We are on course to do what we're expected to do. So let's just go and see if we've got our next. We haven't got our next opponents yet. So let's click through and see if we can find them. So here we go. Here's the whetting of the appetite for tomorrow's episode. Argentina are our quarter-final opponents. tricky, isn't it? Italy, Belgium, Mexico, Germany, Brazil, Wales have got to the quarterfinals. They're doing magnificently well. And then England, Argentina. That makes up the last 8 of the World Cup. So that's going to be a really tough game. But we are getting towards the latter part of this competition, and who knows where this could lead. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow for this amazing mouth-watering game against Argentina. And who knows, if we go through, there'll be a semi-final to play tomorrow as well. So I hope you'll join me for that. Thank you for joining me today, though. Really appreciate it. I know these episodes are slightly different. We will be getting back to Derby County as soon as we're done with this. But for now, this is all about England trying to progress in this World Cup. So thanks for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Click that like button and help me get seen by lots of other people if you haven't. Go check out my merch store. All the good stuff. There's descriptions about the skin that I use in the comments below, in the description below. So yeah, go and check all of that out. But until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.